Good afternoon and welcome to the Manchester United versus Brighton ERIK Ten Hag press conference reaction. Before we jump into that, please do smash a like on the video and please do subscribe to the channel if you are new. So let's get straight into it. ERIK Ten Hag is asked, as you guys can all imagine, anybody can guess what the first question is? It's about Jadon Sancho. So ERIK Ten Hag is asked about Jadon Sancho and ERIK Ten Hag completely ignores the question. He says the following. We closed the game. So he speaks about Arsenal, right? He says, we closed the game. We work on the feedback, the data team feedback. We played very well against Arsenal. We trained very well. We played very well. We've deserved much more against Arsenal. It was not in our side. That was the outcome of our analysis. And you can see our progress against a good Arsenal. And minimum, we have to get a draw there. And we could have won. We come back and we trained very well. We are ready for it. So he completely ignores the Jadon Sancho question, which I guess was probably to be expected. Let's have a little breakdown of what he said. So he thinks we played very well against Arsenal. I wouldn't say we played very well. I don't think we played terribly, but I wouldn't say we played very well. Did we deserve a draw? I think so. I think he is right there. I think a point would have been fair at Arsenal. I do feel like we got robbed a little bit at the end, but you know how it is in football. That's how football works sometimes, isn't it? So I agree with some of that ERIK Ten Hag said. I don't think we played very well, but I think we played well enough to win. To win 1 point. He's then asked about Jadon Sancho again. So he's asked about Jadon Sancho twice in the space of 2 questions. ERIK Ten Hag says, I think everything is said. The squad is strong, in good spirits and good mood going into the game. So he's ultimately said, I have nothing to say about Jadon Sancho. We know what the situation is with Sancho. Sancho's refusing apparently to apologise to ERIK Ten Hag. He's refusing to apologise to the club. And you know what? I don't blame ERIK Ten Hag for saying nothing because everything has been said. The only thing that needs to be said now is I'm sorry from Jadon Sancho. That needs to go out on Twitter. That needs to go to the manager. That needs to go to the directors of football. You know, it needs to go to the fans. That's all that needs to happen. So in some ways, ERIK Ten Hag has said everything he needs to say. He told us that he wasn't training properly and that's why he didn't pick him. So in some ways, I don't blame him for not answering that question. Let's see what he then says next. He's then asked, how will Manchester United cope without Jadon Sancho and Antony, which is, of course, a really, really big question. It's one I've been asking myself. And ERIK Ten Hag says, you sometimes have setbacks in seasons. Players are injured or for other reasons are not available in your constructed squad. The squad is very good and the players who are available are motivated to give a good performance. So he's ultimately kind of dismissed that whole thing of, are you worried about Antony and Sancho? And you know what? In some ways, I'm not really worried about either of them either. You've got Pellistri, you've got Bruno who can play there. You've obviously got Garnacho who could probably play there. You've got Rashford who could probably play there at a push. You've got 3 or 4 players who can play in that right wing position. So I'm not massively worried about that one. He's then asked about players who are going to be missing, which is, of course, a really, really important question. And this is a big bit of news, this one, guys. So he says that both Mason Mount and Raphael Varane will miss the game. He says both are in a good place for a return, but they won't be part of the squad against Brighton. He does, however, confirm that Lisandro Martinez and Victor Lindelof are both fit. So that is incredible news. We won't have to see Maguire on Saturday. We will see a centre-back partnership of Martinez and Victor Lindelof, which, you know what? I'm really, really happy about that. I think that's a solid partnership. I've got 0 issues with that whatsoever. But let me know what you guys think of that one. Are you happy with that partnership for the game against Brighton? Lindelof and Martinez. Mason Mount and Varane are 100% not going to be part of that team. He's then asked a little bit about what he thinks about the abuse that Harry Maguire's been getting. And ERIK Ten Hag says the following. He says, I've said many times, it is disrespectful, doesn't deserve it. He is a great player, gives great performances. It is crazy, but how it works, Harry has to block this. I don't know what to think about this one, you know. Does ERIK Ten Hag really think Harry Maguire is a great player and that he gives great performances? I'm not too sure about that one, personally. Let me know what you guys think of that. Is that just ERIK Ten Hag trying to please the player? Doesn't want to stir more in the cauldron? I'm pretty sure ERIK Ten Hag doesn't think that Harry Maguire gives great performances. Surely not, but I guess he has to back his player, you know. It doesn't really help in any way if he comes out and says, yes, the criticism is fair, he's rubbish. Like, that would get us nowhere, wouldn't it? But yeah. He's then asked, how is Harry Maguire dealing with all of the criticism? Because it's like all over the news, isn't it? They're asking golfers what they think about the Harry Maguire situation. ERIK Ten Hag says... he says he's doing good. You see his character, a lot to come. He has to block it by good performances, which I agree with. And you know what? As much as we slag off Harry Maguire, right? At least he trains hard. At least he turns up on time. At least he doesn't do statements on Twitter sending for the manager. Like, he could have quite easily done all of those things that Jadon Sancho has done, and he hasn't. So, you know what? In some ways, I want Harry Maguire to succeed this season because I support Manchester United. He plays for Manchester United. Yes, he's not good enough, but maybe he can become good enough this season. Just, you know, till the end of the season, maybe. So, yeah, I get it. People are frustrated with him. People want him out of the club. Obviously, the England fans don't like him really either now. He scored an own goal against Scotland, didn't he? He is just a bit of a joke at the moment. But for me, having a fully fit Harry Maguire who's performing well is better than having nothing. So anyway, he's then asked again about Harry Maguire. So we've had 3 questions about Harry Maguire in the same press conference. ERIK Ten Hag says it is also with the generation about team construction, the group dynamic, and always about the team. That is above everything else, but within that, everyone plays their role. Different characters, and you have to manage those characters. So yeah, he's still opening the door to Maguire's return, you know, which is obviously interesting. You know, saying it's a team game. Harry Maguire will get game time, 100%. 100%. Based on how injury prone Rafael Varane is, I'm pretty sure that we'll see Harry Maguire playing relatively soon. He then goes on to be asked about how does he control the standards at Manchester United, which is of course a massive, massive question because we obviously know that the mentality has been questioned many, many times from us, the fans, and, you know, the pundits and all the rest of it. ERIK Ten Hag says this on how he controls the standards. He says, strict lines is what the club asked me because there was no good culture before last season, which I completely agree with. Ollie didn't set a good culture. He then goes on to say that my job is to set good standards. That is what I did, and that is my job to control the standards. It's never someone makes one mistake. It is a whole process for you to come to a certain outcome about strict lines. There is a structure to cross lines, so you have to be strong. So it looks like it's a club decision, you know. It's not just ERIK Ten Hag being strict. It's also something that he must have discussed with, you know, John Murtough, Richard Arnold when he did his job interview a year or so ago to get the job. He's then asked about the Brighton game, about the threat of Brighton, and he says it is typical. We have to play 2 great games in spring against them, and we now have to play tomorrow to our best because they will sacrifice and suffer because it gives you a lot of options. So really looking forward. So yeah, he's obviously very excited about this game. It's a massive, massive game against Brighton tomorrow. It's a must-win game. But yeah, let me know what your score predictions are for that game in the comments section below. We will be doing our match preview at about 6 p.m. today for that one. He's then asked about how long he expects Anthony to be unavailable for, and he says, I have no idea. So I don't know. That's kind of left it open-ended, hasn't it? The fact that nobody really knows how long Anthony will be out for. My guess is it will be quite a long time, personally. I think if there's a legal case against him, Manchester United won't bring him back until it's 100% cleared. So yeah, I think Anthony will be out for quite some time. Right, where else are we? I'm just seeing if there's anything coming in about the Amrabat situation as well. And also whether Reguilon will get a start. That's obviously another question that we are expecting to have in a couple of minutes' time. Let's see what everyone's saying in the live chat. Everybody's asking for Amrabat news. Yep. He hasn't spoken about that yet, so I'll have to wait and see. What else have we got? Yeah, so far, I think overall it's most of the stuff that we have expected, you know? There's nothing really unsurprising. Obviously, it's a massive, massive boost that Lisandro Martinez will be available because he is absolutely essential, in my opinion. I think we desperately need Lisandro Martinez in that defence. The thought of having Harry Maguire start does frighten me. Yes, he will get game time, but I don't think the Brighton game is the right time for Harry Maguire to be brought in, personally. I think he can play, you know, maybe in the League Cup in the earlier rounds, maybe in the FA Cup in the earlier rounds. Fine, do that. Maybe in the Champions League if we've already qualified, which is probably not going to happen. But say we win all 3 of our first Champions League games, maybe then you give Harry Maguire a game at home, potentially. But generally, I don't think he will get much game time otherwise. I'm still waiting for the bit of the interview. I'm waiting for them to ask about Amrabat. At the moment, we've just had 3 or 4 questions about Harry Maguire, which is pretty much to be expected, and 2 questions about Jadon Sancho, both of which were not answered. So, yeah, it's a little bit of a frustrating one, isn't it? Let's see what else we've got. Fred says, I hope there's light at the end of the tunnel. Yeah, of course, mate. Of course. We've got a couple more minutes left of the press conference. They're just at the moment not really saying much. I'm just waiting for these questions about Amrabat to come in because I know a lot of you are really, really keen on finding out what's happening with him. Yeah, there's nothing's come in about Amrabat. So Obviously, there's 2 players who are definitely going to be ruled out. So Erik ten Hag is then asked about whether he has spoken to Antony. He says, of course, he is disappointed, but he is okay. So, yeah, I don't really know what to think of this whole Antony situation, personally. I don't know. I don't really know what to say. Of course, yeah, he's disappointed, Erik ten Hag says. Of course he's going to be disappointed, but doesn't really answer the question of how long he's going to be unavailable for, does it? Because that's what we really want to know, what's actually going on with this situation. Let's see what else we've got. Somebody says, what's the latest situation on Antony? So we just spoke about Antony. He is unavailable. Obviously, he's still being paid by Manchester United. And yeah, Erik ten Hag says he's in direct contact with him. But at the moment, there's nothing really to say on that front for the time being. I have a funny feeling, right, just to give you guys a bit of clarity, I have a funny feeling that the Amrabat bit of the press conference will be saved. So usually what happens is, right, they have an embargoed bit. So about 8 p.m. tonight, they'll release the second half of the press conference. And I reckon they'll then, at that point, tell us whether Amrabat will be available, because they haven't asked the question. They've asked about Sancho, they've asked about Maguire, they've asked about Antony, and that's all that's been answered at this point. So I have a strong feeling that we're going to have to wait until this evening to find out about Amrabat, and also to find out about any other injuries and people who might be starting, whether Rasmus Højlund's going to start, etc. They usually save those little bits to the embargoed section of the press conference. But yeah, I think that's everything from the press conference. They've kind of stopped asking questions now. So I think, I'm just double checking. I think we're probably going to be wrapping up the video. Okay, here we go. So he's asked a little bit more. Right, so he's asked a little bit more about Jadon Sancho. It says, Erik ten Hag refused to refer to Sancho by name and stressed he inherited a no-good culture at the club. Sancho has been banished by Ten Hag, blah, blah, blah. We know all of that already. So yeah, I think we've got all of the key points of this press conference. Obviously, Lisandro Martinez will be available and probably will start alongside Victor Lindelof. We don't know about Amrabat. We'll have to wait until later this evening. Antony's obviously not going to be part of the team. Jadon Sancho is obviously not going to be part of the team. And Erik ten Hag wasn't really willing to give any more information than that away. But I'm going to wrap the video up here, guys. Please do smash a like on the video. Please do subscribe to the channel if you are new. Yeah, we will have our match preview going live at 6 p.m. today. So do make sure you look out for that. Have a lovely afternoon, everyone. I'll speak to you guys a little bit later.